To thee, my Savior, please don't pass me by.
Okay,
Má kọjá mi olùgbàlà, gbàdúrà mi. Nígbà tí mo bá ké pè ọ́, má ṣe kọjá mi. Jésù, Jésù Olúwa gbọ́ àdúrà mi. Nígbà tí mo bá ké pè ọ́, má ṣe kọjá mi.
thank you.
It's coming.
Now the Lord is the Alpha and Omega of life.
Yes.
And retirement issues are issues that deal with end of life. Now, life begins with parents. You get a free ride from parents. At the age of 20 to 23, you are let go to fetch for yourself. And you fetch for yourself, you buy a house, you care for children, and you do all that. And you are hoping that plenty will be left to take care of your old age. So this is a very, very important subject. Now, a lot of us go through life without spending a lot of time on this subject. Now, I implore everybody that you focus on this by determining what I call your work-life income. I'm going to repeat that. In other words, no matter how hard we work, how long we work, how desired we are, it begins by you looking out and saying that if I start at the age of 22, age of 25, age of 30, whatever, what is my projected life income? If you don't determine that, you cannot determine how much to save. And this concept was never well taught. My father taught me this. My father founded one of the first banks in Nigeria, the old Okupe Bank. And I learned this. He called me at the age of 10 and defined to me what is meant by work-life income. And the earlier a human being understands that, the earlier you begin to build it up. Because it is the totality of what you make during the time you are working. I repeat the word, work-life. The embedded life, there's the dependent life when you're young. The parents are taking care of you. Then there's a time when you work to take care of yourself. There's a time now when you retire. And you want, during the time you are working, which I call work-life income, your body, that's when someone is taking care of you. That's when that's your work life. That's when you are drawing from that work life income to sustain yourself. Very important concept in life. So, if you want to plan retirement, you begin by determining your work-life income. You make an assumption, and you tweak it as you're going along. Say if I start on an income of $25,000 a year, and I start at the age of 25, I will project out that I'm going to work another 40 years, and I will take $25,000 as base income. I will grow it with an inflation rate of 2.5 to 3% a year, out to 40 years. That's my base work-life income. Let me repeat that. My father ran a bank, so I learned this concept very early, at the age of 10 years old. So I began from $25,000 at the age of 20. And that's my base, that's year one. Now I must grow that because inflation grows every year. I have to grow by 2.5% over 40 years. That's my beginning. Now if I get a raise, say let's say in 5 years I get promoted. I will change that all the way out. Is everybody following me? So your work-life income is not static because your position in work life is also not static. It's always changing until you get to the end of life. Now, after you have determined your work-life income, you have to determine how do you spend it. Is everybody following me?
Yes, sir.
If you do not determine how to spend it, you will not know where the money is going. And a lot of people believe that you can never get rich working. So that is not true. I'm the proof of that. People say, oh, well, you just work for somebody. That's it. You can work for somebody and get rich out of it. If you never work for anybody, even if you want to work for yourself, you have to start by working for somebody. And then as the money gets bigger and bigger, you invest it. And if you think you're comfortable now, you stop working for somebody and work for yourself. So everybody, unless you win the lottery, must begin by working for somebody. So now you must have a sound budget. So I'm getting this money every year. How do I spend it? And at the end of every year, you must ask yourself, you bring out all your checkbooks. We made $50,000, husband and wife. What happened to the money? Ask yourself every year, that this money that I made, where did it go? Are you following my point? If you cannot do that, you're not working. Your body, what they mean by that is that every penny you earn, you must account for it, and there must be savings at the end of the year. The money that you spent, you have not earned it. A penny saved is a penny earned. So if you work for a whole year, and at the end of the year there's no savings, that means you have not earned anything that year. Let me repeat that. If I and my wife, we work for a whole year, and at the end of the year, we save profit, that means we have not worked that year. It's a year wasted. So if that happens in 1 year, you must do something so that next year it will not happen again. Now we all must buy houses in this country or in Nigeria, anywhere we are. And we begin with a 30-year mortgage. No immigrant. I repeat that. No foreigner, either here or in Europe, should ever take 30 years to pay for a house. I paid mine in 7 years. I paid for mine in 7 years in the city of Davis. Nobody, no immigrant, either in the USA or in Europe, should ever take 30 years to buy a house. If it takes you that long, you will never own anything. For most of us that are foreigners, because we must go to school or we come here late, most of us don't buy a house until between 30 and the age of 40 years old. In general. There are only very few exceptions to that. The average immigrant, either here or in Europe, whether you are a Nigerian, you are a Ghanaian, I don't care who you are, most of us cannot buy a house until between the age of 30 or 40. If there's any exception here, raise your hand. And I'm not an exception also. As a result of that, you should never take 30 years to pay for it. Every year, we as immigrants, as foreigners, we must be more aggressive than Americans or Europeans. If it means getting a second job, by any means necessary, pay off your mortgage in 15 years. In my case, I work for CalTrans. I made it a point of duty to always be at a place where I can get overtime. And I also moonlighted. I will go and do drafting for people. I will do all kinds of work. Every penny I made in overtime went towards my mortgage. It was paid off. And 28 years ago, a $300,000 house in the city of Davis is not a cheap house. $300,000 26 years ago, it's like $1 million today. That's the way it was in this area, just to let you know. Yeah, I paid it off, and we were not that lucky. Interest rate was between 7.5% at that time was a good deal. And so my goal was that I started with 30 years, I refinanced to 15, I cut it in half. Through over time, when I got my tax return, to my wife, we don't do anything, it goes to the mortgage company. And if you make it a plan like that, to always pay something over and beyond what is called for, you may not be done in 7 years, you could do it in 15 years. Especially at today's rate. When you pay off your mortgage, that is the beginning of your financial freedom. Let me repeat that. The day you pay your mortgage off, that is the day you begin to be free financially. And you can never acquire wealth or acquire retirement benefit without being free from money. In other words, if I'm getting a check and I'm spending it every time, you're not free. You must set yourself free from that. And for everybody here, whether you are in Nigeria, you are in Europe, you're wherever, rent or mortgage is the biggest chunk of your expenses. So if you're free from that, you get a lot of money. So your disposable income goes way up. You can then turn around. In my case, when I did that, I said, now I have this extra money. I'm going to buy more houses. I committed $700,000 towards condo units and landed property. And it can be done. But it begins with you being free from mortgage company. If you're paying $1,500 a month, you know how, at the end of the year, that is $18,000. It's a colossal amount of money. And another thing we must do as immigrants, you cannot carry credit card debt. If you cannot pay for it, don't buy it. Now, when you build yourself, now what I'm saying here is that you are building what I call net worth. I have a chart here. I say that by the age of 30, the immigrant in this country, if you don't have a net worth in real estate of $30,000, you're doing something wrong. You have to, you tell the children to make very good. By the time I get to the age of 30, I must have in my house, either in equity or in down payment, $30,000. Age of 30. And you have to have in 401k, $10,000. And you must have cash in savings. There are many ways to save. I'm going to tell you all the trick. I already know that. When I work for CalTrans, we get vacation. When you start working on the stage, you begin with 2 weeks. Eventually it goes to 3 weeks. For 3 years, I did not take my own vacation time. The vacation that you save is money in the future. Let me repeat that. When I retired from the state of California, I walked away with $130,000 in vacation money. $130,000. So I was saving it. So time saved is cash in the future. So you don't, yeah, we go to Nigeria. So I'll go for 3 years, 2 weeks, plus 2 weeks, plus 3 weeks. That is 7 weeks. Then I start to take vacation. I have a cushion of 7 weeks. Then when I take vacation, I will not take all. You keep adding to those times, year after year after year, with money in the bank. I remember when I told my boss I was retiring. I said, sir, but you're going to owe me a lot of money. He said, how come? I said, I have tons of vacation hours. I said, I have 1,800 hours. And with the state, when they pay you, they pay interest on it. They add interest on interest. So it will end up being more than that. So it's a big amount of money. And if you leave somebody, that is 10% of, that's over 10% of $1 million. So over a period of 30 years, and so you take those measures, every penny adds up very quickly. And when we had Globex, I tried to encourage my folks to let us buy condos. Some condos I bought for $60,000. They are worth $130,000 today. And I have collected rent from them free of charge. Rent is $1,000 a month. After the rent, after I pay expenses, it's $600 in your pocket. Free money. Somebody said that, Mr. Okupe, you have not bought a new car, so I've been knowing you. I said, I don't buy whatever I cannot afford. I pay cash. So money builds up. You can raise $1 billion very quickly if you save money and you are very strategic. It sounds like a lot of money, but when you're saving strategically, you can work with somebody and raise $1 billion in this country. And in my case, I started doing it over the age of 40 because I went to Nigeria. I went to Nigeria, I wanted to save my country. And I lost everything I took there. So when I came back more aggressively. I'm not going to go back again. So, it is never too late to start. That's what I'm saying. When I came back in 1986, I came back with boxes of books, but with very good strategy. I never worked anywhere. I was always looking for overtime. And so, by the age of 40, we should have, in real estate, the house we're living in. Remember now you started paying from the age of 30. And you're kicking in money every year. You get your tax return, it goes there. Overtime money, it goes there. Because you are working towards building what I call financial freedom. By the age of 40, you should have in your house $100,000. And you should have in 401k $35,000 minimum. You should have in savings $20,000. Your total net worth at the age of 40 should be about $155,000. You can see that I'm stepping up. By the age of 50 now, you should be able to have $450,000 in your house. Because you're getting close to sunset. Every year, every 10 years that we grow, we must grow wealth aggressively. There's a difference between a 50-year-old man and a 20-year-old man. 30 years is a long time. And your wealth at the age of 50 should reflect that you are much older than a 20-year-old person. Because you work for 20 to 30 years. It's a long time. And the time left is nowhere near that. By the age of 60, in the house that you live in, or in other houses, in real estate, you should have $560,000 in today's dollars. 560K. 506,000. And you should have built your 401k to 300,000. 300K. 401k. And you should not have less than $60,000 in savings. Your house will be paid off by all this time. And you should no longer be worried about money, but what to do with money. Your worry should now be, how should you spend this money so that you don't lose it? Because when you get to that point, there are many things that can tell you. By the time you get there now, both in English and Yoruba. So, by the age of 66, you should build your house, real estate you're living in, all the others to 600K. In your 401k, because you're now ready to go out. You should be at 420,000. Your savings, you should have $100,000 cash savings that you can tap anytime the need arises. And your net worth should be at least $1.2 million. If you take all these steps, it's a lot easier with husband and wife talking than with one person. With one person, you turn out, the numbers I gave you should be 50%. Now, You're retired. How do you tap all this money so that you don't run out of money? That's the end goal. Because some people retire and they run out of money. Your body, yeah. Based on what I just described to you. Because you've worked so long to build that nest egg. So now, if you're going to live here, now you were doing all this without counting on so many sources. For those who are old, you can drop Social Security at the age of 20, at the age of 62, or at the age of 65 or 66. The range is about, the lowest payment for Social Security is about $1,000. But you can draw as high as $2,000. It's a lot of money if you're retired. Now you can see that if you follow my strategy, you will have $2,000 coming from the government. If you're a pension, you can retire here in the USA and making $10,000 every month. I repeat that. And $10,000 is a big amount of money. And we all know that in today's USA, there are millions of people working that don't make $10,000 a month. $10,000 is a big amount of money. So you draw $2,000 from Social Security, you can draw another $8,000 from government pension. Very easy. And you can drop now all those we're talking about that you deprive yourself and you buy houses, now you start to draw the rent. Drawing rent from house when you retire is a conventional way we do in Nigeria. I want you to retire. You can do the same thing here. Only now, you will get Social Security, you will collect rent, you will collect pension. It will be over $10,000 for one person. You can't spend it all. You can get from savings. And so, in summary, iṣẹ́ ló kù ṣẹ́, kúra síṣẹ́ ọ̀rẹ́ mi, ṣé àkùbà bẹ́ẹ̀nìfẹ̀ẹ́tì, bí ọ̀rẹ́ làárí, ṣé àkùbà rẹ̀ gbẹ́kẹ̀lé àti pàmọ́ṣẹ́ ìlú. Tí ó bá gbójúlé wọn, ilé ìtọ́jọ́, ìgbẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ẹni.
Ìgúnpá ni iye kan.
When you ran outside and hit his head. On the concrete. He ran outside and hit his head.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thanks so much for everything, for us. There is a question I want to ask. When do we start planning for our retirement? When?
From the age of 30.
I don't think I agree with you. Because I was at a seminar in Nigeria, I asked that question. They say, immediately you start working. That's the day you have to start.
You are very right. But for most immigrants, I said at the beginning, for most of us who are immigrants here, we don't get to go to work here. In fact, for most men, ladies are lucky. You ask all the men here, you can hardly find one man here, one African, that will obtain a good job earlier at the age of 30.
I don't think you'll get me right. This is when, what is the time? When do we start planning for our retirement? When?
When you begin your first job. If you're lucky, if you begin at the age of 20, you should start there. If you start at the age of 30, whenever you get your first job, it's your day one of planning for retirement.
Ṣé gbogbo bí iṣẹ́ ní tó jẹ́ pé ká bá nura wa ní àsìkò ìsinmi kò lè dòwó lọ́jọ́ iwájú lò ní pé kéèyàn fílẹ̀ pé kéèyàn máa lọ fún àsìkò ìsinmi ṣé gbogbo bí iṣẹ́ náà ní ṣe sọ ọ́ dòwó nílùú
ó yàtọ̀ díẹ̀ nípò míì lọ́dọọdún lè máa gbowó yẹn jáde nípò míì tó bá tọdún mẹ́rin ẹ lè gbà jáde, you can cash it out after 4 years. So if you are working for a private company and they pay you cash every 4 years, you draw the money out, put it in savings.
Àdìsẹ́ gbogbo obiṣẹ́.
Kí ṣe gbogbo iṣẹ́?
Ṣé èèyàn lọ wá abiṣẹ́ tó ẹgbẹ́ ìtàn? Wọ́n bá di àsìkò sinmi tẹ́mi ọ̀bá lọ fún sinmi o. Ṣé sọ́dún owó fún lọ́jọ́ iwájú? Ṣé àwọn obiṣẹ́ kan wà bẹ́ẹ̀?
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Ṣé yóò bá wá wáṣẹ́ yóò wá ló bẹ̀rù?
Yorùbá
yìí kọ́ níbi tó yẹ pé wọ́n ṣàfihàn láti ẹ̀sìn irísẹ́ kan. Wọ́n á ní ọ̀fẹ́ ìtọ́jẹ́ wípé bọ́ọ̀ bá lọ sinmi wọ́n sọ́dún owó. Ṣé ó ṣeé ṣe?
Ní òfin ìlú yìí kò sí ibi iṣẹ́ tí wọ́n lè ṣiṣẹ́ tí wọ́n lè gba vacation. Àfẹ́ tó bá ń fọwọ́ even McDonald's now.
Àní tẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ vacation yẹn sẹ́yìn. Tí ẹ bá ní òfin lóra o.
Yes.
Òfin lóra pé òun ò lọ. Ṣé wọ́n ní sọ pé èyí tí tó fẹ́ kan igi? Wọ́n jẹ́ àṣìṣe mọ́ ní ìsinmi ni. Ọ̀dà ọ̀pọ̀ ọ̀bá lọ ọ̀pàdánù rẹ̀ nu. Torí ní Nàìjíríà tá a ti wá, tó bá dà sí ìsinmi ní ọ̀bá lọ. Àkọ́kọ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ ní kí ìsọkùnrin yìí o. Nǹkan kan láti ọlọ́dún wà lára rẹ̀. Ìyẹn ṣe ṣiṣẹ́ tí ní ìsinmi. Ṣùgbọ́n nílùú yìí, ṣé wọ́n gbà bẹ́ẹ̀ pé wọ́n sọ pé ọ̀sàkìtìyàn inú rẹ̀ dùn ṣiṣẹ́ ni òmúra sí ni òfin lọ sinmi. Ìsinmi tó wà lọ wọ́n bọ̀ sọ́dọ̀wọ́. Ìní ìbéèrè mi wọ́n mọ ní o.
Ìlú nílùú yìí nítorí àwọn employer wọ́n máa ń exploit àwọn employee. Ìpìlẹ̀ ẹ̀kọ́ léèyàn mẹ́wàá ẹni mẹ́ta ló máa níbẹ̀ inú wọn á dùn tẹ́ ẹ̀ wá lọ. Are you following my point? Most employers in this country, not all, they love to keep you there as long as possible. And so they will let you carry the private sector, only government normal vacation. After our government was vacation. The private sector, some private companies will not let you go stay there for 20 years without vacation. But they can allow you to cash it out after 2, 3, 4 years. It's the same thing. If you pay me cash after 4 years, if I don't spend the money, I put it in the bank, or I use to pay that, I will use money to pay down the mortgage. You get the same result. In fact, that is better than you waiting for 20 years. Somebody that can pay you every 4 years, you can get the money, you can go and invest it right away. In my case, I had to wait for 20 years. I was keeping the time. With the state of California, you cannot collect the cash right away. You wait till the end. With private sector, some of them, not all, will pay you that money every 2, 3, 4 years if you want to cash it out.
But then you want to comment come in now.
And to move answer question, Sherry, lot of one be you want to 30 years because you must start college need 820, somewhere around 1820. So, when I acquire student loan, Sherry loan, yeah, what does so you So once somebody saw it within average 8 years, automatically, as a matter of fact, we need to go through process and missing. So 30 years, maybe most employer will have money very high rate. Lati bere, come on, bere, sin contribute to you. And then money point and that is. Among so many companies, wanting better loophole. I'm a senior citizen at work right now. So there are so much vacation to carry. So when my first cheating you, so you gotta find a way to get around it. Tell it, when they carry up to almost 7 weeks. Maximum timoni is 7 weeks. With a man more is 7 weeks here because what is she saying? What you pay? So Nisi they cut it in half. So a lot of time a man need opportunity like to say and then the other one she would disagree with doing this can who they saw who are okay, but all difficult not to say because ẹni tó bá ní family táwọn ọmọ wọn bá ń struggle wà fẹ́ help wọn láti ra lé láti lọ sí school láti ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀. So I will go with half of that.
I will tell you how I did all that. I have 3 children. Very good question. Now,
Any scholarship?
I went to UC Davis to live in Davis because of what you just said. I told my children that you must go to school from my house. That I did not want to pay any money for room and board. So I made all my 3 children. I fed them from home. I looked after their homework. I paid their tuition 100%. Only if you go to UC Davis where I'm living. As a result, they all went to school, 0 loan. I repeat that.
That's a good one.
Allah is aware of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Question pẹ̀lú gbogbo responsibility tá a ní nílé ìyá bàbá ẹ̀gbọ́n àbúrò kí la ṣe lè gbogbo àwọn responsibility yìí ó dẹ̀ jẹ́ dandan pa láti ṣe kí la ṣe máa wá combine ẹ̀ pẹ̀lú àti save àti gbogbo ẹ̀ báyìí and still be able to achieve the same results.
When you draw your budget, you allow that, I call that charitable contributions.
Charitable contributions.
It must not exceed 5 to 10% of your take home. Anything outside 5 to 10% of your take home must wait till next year. Financial discipline, if you are not a disciplined person financially, you cannot be successful. 5 to 10% of your take home. Take home, gross, net. If I take home $50,000, I cannot spend more than $5,000 towards it every year.
Before 10% then from tithe,
included
after the tithe. Báwo ló ṣe máa jẹ 5?
Included.
10%.
Èmi ò wá sanwó tithe for church.
Okay.
During that time. Correct. Because it's a bullet. Owó aláàrẹ̀.
Ṣé ó ṣe é ṣe ká sọ pé tí èèyàn bá fẹ́ ní owó nílùú yìí tó sì fẹ́ ní ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àjẹsẹ́kù lẹ́yìn ìgbà tó bá fẹ̀yìntì ọ̀nà tó lè gbà ní bí ti bàbá Okupe. Tí mo sọ pé bí ti bàbá Okupe ni pé gbogbo èèyàn ṣe ló lè ṣe bẹ́yìn ṣe ṣe èní gbogbo èèyàn ní bàbá rẹ̀ ní ilé ìfowópamọ́sí ń pè ní àgbọ̀ngbẹ. Ó jẹ́ pé ẹ̀yin òun ẹgbẹ́ nìkan ránṣẹ́ sí láti lé pé bóò ni o fi nǹkan báyìí ránṣẹ́ o.
Wọ́n ránṣẹ́ sí mi o.
Bí wọ́n bẹ́ẹ̀ bá dáhùn, owó ń bẹ lé àwọn àmọ́ ẹ̀yìn. Owó ń bẹ lé gidi. Ó ní bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe sọ yìí. Ẹlòmíì ọmọ rò pé ṣé àpàlọ́ ni. Bí ṣe dànù pé ṣé ìjọ òun ṣe àpà báyìí. Torí pé ṣe rọ́nà sẹ́yìn báyìí. Lójú rẹ̀ ní olè díẹ̀. Ṣé tí a bá máa jẹ yóò ṣé bò gbágidi yóò gọ̀ díẹ̀. Yóò bá mọ̀ gọ̀ nítorí kọ́mọ̀rògùn àwọn àjẹ́. Kọ́mọ̀rògùn àwọn asọnilẹ́nu wípé èyí tí ní tiẹ̀ ṣe jẹ́. Kọ́mọ̀dé aláṣọ kan kalẹ̀ tí ìlọ́rẹ̀ tí ò ṣe àbùjẹbùdànù díẹ̀ torígbà táwa bẹ̀rẹ̀ ṣẹ́ a máa ń pe kíkan ní ọ̀sẹ̀ ìgbéraga pé kéèyàn ti ẹ̀yìn lọ́n díẹ̀ pé ẹjẹ́ ti ẹ̀gbẹ́gún lójú kí n tó ṣàláyà díẹ̀ láti pé nǹkan tí ẹ̀ sọ pé ọlọ́run mo ti ẹ̀yìn ọ́ kébì náà ti ẹ̀ ṣe bí èèyàn fún ẹ̀mí gígùn ẹlòmíì tó bá ń ṣiṣẹ́ àsìkò sinmi ọ̀dẹ̀dẹ̀ fún ni gbogbo èèyàn kọ́ lọ́lọ́run ṣe fi àlàáfíà ta lọ́rẹ wípé kí éjìnì rẹ̀ máa ṣiṣẹ́ láìsí ìwòwò ẹ̀ ní ẹ̀bá sí ànítorí pé òun fẹ́ fowó pamọ́ ó sì kú ó lè díẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n tá a bá nítọ̀ pé bí ẹ̀ bá fẹ́ ní owó yóò dájú yóò sì hurú àwọn ọ̀wà báyìí bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe lẹ̀ sílẹ̀ tó ló ṣeé ṣe fún ẹ tó bá jẹ́ pé ní tó fẹ́ ṣe nu ẹ ti gbé sílẹ̀ pẹ̀tọ̀ ẹ tí ó bá ní owó ọ̀nà báyìí ni ènìyàn láti gbà ó.
chief mo lọ vacation mo ní sáàmì yẹn ní ọdún kìíní ọdún kejì ọdún kẹta mi ò lọ vacation nígbà tó dọdún kẹrin tí n bá ní ọ̀sẹ̀ mẹ́rin màá lọ ọ̀sẹ̀ méjì màá keep ọ̀sẹ̀ méjì tó kù. So I was always taking vacation half of the time and saving the other half.
Okay, question tó fẹ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ láti lè kò ń ṣe gbogbo èèyàn ló ń ṣiṣẹ́ ìjọba.
That is correct.
Ẹlòmíì ṣiṣẹ́ ara ẹ̀.
Yes.
And èmi gẹ́gẹ́ bí èèyàn kan mo like iṣẹ́ ìjọba. And láti ìgbà tí mo ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ṣiṣẹ́ mo láwọn tó mo pè ní mentor tó wà l'Amẹ́ríkà tó ní wọ́n ṣe dáadáa. Wọ́n lè sọ fún mi nígbà ní ti máa make $100. Wọ́n á sọ fún mi nígbà pé nínú $100 tó make o $20 náà ń ṣe títí ẹ. Ìyá kọ́ yọ $20 yẹn náà máa fi pamọ́ kò ń ṣòwò mi tí máa ti sọ táàkì tán ní $100 fún mi máa kọ́ yọ $20 yẹn máa fi pamọ́ $80 tó bá kù gbogbo láyé ọba máa wo orí ẹ̀ la máa pín sí kò bá jẹ́ táìtì kò bá jẹ́ orí ẹ̀ ló máa wà but $20 a máa pè ní money never made kò ń ṣòwò is money that you never made o ò make rárá ni kò ń ṣòwò ẹ̀ so fellow mi tí ò ń ṣiṣẹ́ ìjọba tí ò wọ́n nípa vacation iṣẹ́ ara ẹ̀ ló ń ṣe. So I think that would be a good strategy on the way forward too. Okay, you need financial discipline.
Yes.
Knowing what to save and what not to save. You know, tí ẹ bá lè ṣe 20%, go save 20% you to make. From there you graduate to 30% or to 40% of what you are making. So financial discipline is very, very important on way forward. Follow me.
That's a good point.
So nítorí gbogbo akọ́là ń ṣiṣẹ́ ìjọba so bó ṣe wà ní
ọ̀nà tó ń gbé yẹn ó tún yá wá pa ọ̀nà tó ń sọ yẹn ó yá jẹ́ ọ̀nà tó ń wí yẹn lọ ó yá gan-an you can build wealth much quicker through what you just said.